Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive on Ubisoft.
Ubisoft, huh?
Yeah, they're huge EE. They've made some of the biggest games out there, like Assassin's Creed.
Oh, yeah. Assassin's Creed and Far Cry.
Right, Far Cry. But lately I feel like they've been getting a lot of, well, not so great press.
Mm-hmm.
So we got our hands on this document. It's all about, like, Ubisoft's reputation and what's going on with them.
Interesting.
Yeah, and get this. It talks about 7 different ways their future could play out.
7. Wow.
I know, right? Some good, some maybe not so good. But before we jump into all that, I gotta ask, have you ever played a Ubisoft game and just felt like, wait, haven't I done this before?
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's that Ubisoft formula.
The formula?
Yeah, they're known for these giant open worlds, but they can get kind of repetitive, like you're always climbing towers, clearing outposts.
Yeah, it's like every game has the same checklist.
Exactly. And a lot of players, well, they're starting to find it, a little boring.
But hold on, didn't they try to change things up with Assassin's Creed Origins?
Oh, yeah, Origins.
I remember that one actually got some good reviews. They added RPG stuff, like leveling up your character and making choices that actually mattered.
It's true. Origins did shake things up a bit. It showed that they can break the mold if they want to.
So maybe it's not about getting rid of open worlds altogether. Maybe it's about finding ways to make them feel, I don't know, less predictable.
Right. It's about evolution, not revolution.
Yeah.
But the big question is, can they keep it up? Can they consistently make those changes?
Good point. And, consistency is something they've struggled with, especially when it comes to game launches.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Remember Assassin's Creed Unity?
Don't remind me. Those glitching faces, it was a mess.
It was rough. And it kind of solidified this image of Ubisoft rushing games out the door, even if they're not quite ready.
Yeah. It's like they prioritize the release date over everything else.
And that can really damage player trust. But, there is one game that kind of breaks that pattern. Rainbow Six Siege.
Siege. Didn't that one also have a really rough launch?
Oh, it did. Big time. But then they turned it around.
Oh.
They actually listened to the players. They kept releasing updates, fixed the bugs, added new content. Basically, they showed that they cared.
So they can learn and adapt even after a rocky start. That's good to know. But then there's the whole monetization thing.
Yes. Microtransactions.
It feels like every game now wants you to spend more money even after you've already paid full price.
Right. And Ubisoft has definitely gotten some heat for that.
Oh, yeah. Especially with those time savers in games like Odyssey and Valhalla. It's like they're saying, hey, you can grind for hours to get this cool item, or you can just give us money and get it instantly.
Yeah, that feeling of grind. Sometimes it feels intentional, like it's designed to push you towards spending more. And that's where a lot of the frustration comes from.
Players feel manipulated, like their time isn't respected.
Exactly. But, it's not always black and white. Ubisoft has also released free expansions and content updates. So it's not like they're always trying to squeeze every penny out of players.
It's a complex issue for sure, and I feel like it ties into this bigger question about Ubisoft's overall priorities. But before we dive into that, we got to address something pretty serious. The reports about their workplace culture.
You're right. We can't ignore that.
Over the past few years, there have been some really disturbing allegations about harassment and a toxic work environment at Ubisoft.
It's a huge problem, and it goes way beyond just making games. It affects how people view the entire company.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, can they really rebuild trust if they don't address these issues head on, really address them, not just with words, but with real, meaningful change?
That's a tough question. And it'll be interesting to see how they handle it moving forward. Okay, so we were talking about those 7 potential futures for Ubisoft.
Right. 7. It's kind of wild to think about.
Well, one path is like a total internal makeover. They really focus on quality, listen to players, and actually build a healthy workplace.
That's pretty idealistic, isn't it?
It's a long shot, for sure.
Yeah.
But, remember what happened with Siege?
Yeah, they totally turned that game around.
Exactly. It shows they're capable of change.
Okay. So that's one path. Internal reform. What about the others?
Well, there's this other possibility where they just kind of double down on what's been making them money.
You mean even more microtransactions?
Yeah, potentially. Maybe they even shift almost entirely to live service games.
So they basically become the company that some people already think they are.
It's a possibility. Especially if they're more worried about short-term profits than, the long-term health of the company and their relationship with players.
I don't know. That just seems kind of sad. What are some of the other scenarios?
Well, there's acquisition.
Acquisition?
Yeah, like another company buys them.
Who would buy Ubisoft?
Oh, one of the big players, Microsoft, Sony, maybe even Amazon.
Whoa, really? What would that mean for their games?
Hard to say. It could mean more resources, but it could also mean less creative freedom.
So it's a gamble.
Definitely. And then there's the decline scenario.
Decline. Like they just fade away.
It's not impossible.
Hmm.
If they keep releasing buggy games, pushing those microtransactions, and just failing to innovate, well, players might just move on.
It would be a shame. They've made some amazing games.
It would. But it highlights how important it is to adapt and, stay connected to what players want.
Okay, so we've got reform, monetization focus, acquisition, and decline. What about those last three paths?
One possibility is they focus more on new markets.
New markets.
Yeah, like regions with growing gaming communities, Southeast Asia, Latin America, places like that.
Interesting. So kind of like expanding their reach globally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tap into those new audiences.
Makes sense. What's next?
Well, there's the path where they really focus on new IPs.
New IPs. You mean like brand new games?
Yep.
Yeah.
Fresher ideas, new franchises, maybe even reviving some older ones.
Oh, like a creative reboot. I like that idea.
It would be a chance for them to, take some risks, try something different.
And maybe win back some of those players who feel like they've gotten a bit stale.
Exactly. All right, ready for the seventh path?
Hit me with it.
This one's a little less about specific actions and more about a shift in their overall philosophy.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's about them becoming a truly ethical and sustainable company.
Ethical and sustainable. In what way?
I'm talking about prioritizing player well-being over those aggressive monetization tactics.
You okay?
Fostering a more inclusive and respectful work environment, and maybe even using their influence to, promote positive change in the world.
Wow, that's a lot. Do you really think they could pull it off?
It would be a huge shift, but I don't think it's impossible. And I think a lot of players would really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think you're right. So where do you think they're actually headed? Which path seems most likely?
Honestly, it's too early to tell. They've made some good moves, like acknowledging their problems and promising to improve their work environment.
But
But they've also made some choices that make you wonder if they're really committed to change. Like, they're still pretty reliant on microtransactions.
it's like they're trying to have it both ways.
Yeah, kinda. I think they're still figuring things out.
Yeah.
Trying to find that balance between making money and keeping players happy.
It's a tough balance, but at the end of the day, their actions are going to speak louder than words.
Absolutely. And players are watching.
And waiting to see what they do next. Man, it's kind of crazy to think about. Ubisoft's at this, like, crossroads. And whatever they decide, it's going to affect a lot of gamers.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility. On one hand, they've had these huge EE hits with their, those big franchises.
Right. Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, all those.
Exactly. And their live service games are doing really well, too.
Hmm.
But if they don't, actually address some of these issues,
They risk losing players for sure.
it's a tough spot to be in. It's like they have to pick a direction. Either they keep doing what's been working, even if it means pushing those microtransactions even harder.
Or they try to get back to, like, what made them so popular in the first place.
Right.
Taking risks, being more creative. Yeah.
Right. And then there's that third path, the one we talked about, where they try to be more,
Ethical. Sustainable.
yeah, exactly. That one's, it's kind of the wild card.
Okay. But let's play pretend for a second. Let's say they decide to go down that path. What would that even look like? Like an ethical and sustainable Ubisoft. What does that mean for gamers?
Okay, imagine this. You start up the next big Assassin's Creed game, and there's no, constant pressure to spend money.
No microtransactions popping up everywhere.
Exactly. The game is just like a really well-made, immersive experience. They've put the focus back on exploration, story, making choices that matter.
That sounds refreshing, actually.
Doesn't it? And even their live service games, instead of being all about battle passes and grinding, imagine they're actually focused on, what the players want.
So they'd listen to feedback, make updates that actually make the game better, not just add more ways to spend money.
Exactly. They'd focus on quality over quantity. And it goes beyond the games themselves, too. Imagine Ubisoft as a company that's really committed to, diversity and inclusion.
You mean their games would reflect that?
Yeah. They would have characters and stories that represent a wider range of people,
That's about time, honestly.
Right. And what if they use their platform to, actually make a difference in the world? Promote positive change?
Wow. It's hard to imagine, but that would be Pretty
It
amazing.
would be a huge shift, no doubt.
Yeah.
But I think it's the kind of thing that would really connect with players, especially now when everyone's kind of,
Wary of the industry. Tired of being nickeled and dimed.
yeah, exactly. But let's be real, change doesn't happen overnight, especially for a company this big. So what can they do, like right now, to show that they're serious about all this?
That's the million-dollar question.
Well, for one, they need to be way more transparent, like actually communicate with players, not just with like marketing speak,
Real talk.
real
Yep.
talk. Tell us what they're working on, what their plans are, how they're going to address these problems, and then actually follow through.
So actions speak louder than words, basically.
100%. Release games that are actually finished.
Yeah.
No more buggy messes. Games that don't feel like they're designed to force you to spend extra money.
Make games that respect our time.
Exactly. And they got to actually make progress on that whole workplace culture thing, too. Create an environment where everyone feels safe and respected.
That's a big one.
It is. But it's also up to us, the players, to hold them accountable.
What do you mean?
I mean, we have to pay attention. We have to let them know what we expect. And if they don't meet those expectations, well, we can vote with our wallets.
Choose to support the companies that are actually doing the right thing.
Exactly. At the end of the day, we all have a part to play in shaping the future of gaming.
Wow. So that was a lot to unpack today. We talked about Ubisoft's successes, their struggles, and all those potential futures. From like total collapse to becoming this ethical gaming powerhouse.
It's been a wild ride. And who knows what's going to happen next?
Only time will tell.
Oh,
But one thing's for sure. Ubisoft is at a turning point. And whatever they choose to do next, well, it's going to have a huge impact on the entire gaming world.
and on us, the players.
So, to everyone listening out there, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on all of this? What do you think Ubisoft needs to do to get back on track? Head over to the comments and let us know. And until next time, happy gaming, everyone.